So we did that early in the year with the folks from Special Olympics. Same thing we have done traditionally every year. We still do the bike rodeo, bike safety, try to really push with kids the need for helmets and how to make sure that they're riding safely and try to minimize injuries and risk that way for them and their parents and their families. So that's always a well-populated or well-attended event when that we do that. One of my favorites is the Winter Wonderland event we do. We do it just after the first of the year now. We used to try to do it before Christmas, so we found there's too many families that are too many things going on at one time, from craft fairs and everything else, pre-holiday parties. So we do it just after the first of the year. Again, another 80, 90 people will show up for this, but it's very targeted to families with special needs inside the family. So it's very well received that way. We get a lot of support from the high school, a lot of support from local business that helps us out with it to minimize the expense of it. But Fleet Farm is a great sponsor of ours for this particular event, and they give us a lot of things for the kids basically to have as giveaways. So it's a very good event that way. It helps the staff to build a relationship and understand kids with special needs or intellectual disabilities. So if something happens in the home, there's already a little bit of a relationship with parents, and they have a deeper understanding of, like, just as an example, autism and how a kid might respond if they have autism. So it's kind of a win-win that way. CSI in the park is yet again something else that we've continued to do, very well attended, basically sells out pretty quick after it's published. So we're going to continue to do that. I think that's out and posted already for this early summer. So we get a couple sessions of that as well. It kind of exposes the elementary age children to just different things. They hear CSI, and I think they show them how to lift fingerprints, and they do all kinds of different things. Solve a little caper in the park generally. The vision has still remained the same. Again, a village where everybody can be safeguarded by a police department that demonstrates highest levels of integrity, promotes collaborative relationships, and builds trust with all members of the community. So a lot of our community policing efforts drive into that vision to try to build good relationships inside the community. We will at least once a year, we'll serve lunch at the senior center. We did that again last year. A couple years ago, we ended up doing it on birthday lunch day, which is a whole new level of excitement, because it gets to be kind of fun when they're all celebrating the birthdays for the month. But it's a good time for us to interact, hear some different feedback from folks, and just get a chance to share some time with our seniors. Read with an Officer is another program. It gets it's a really good program, don't get me wrong. It's just sometimes we end up having to cancel last minute depending on call volume, because it's after school. So it's after school, we delegate an officer to be at the library and meet with kids and read with them or read to them, depending on the circumstance. But again, sometimes we just get call volume and we have to unfortunately cancel it at the last second. So we try to get back to it. Everybody is basically assigned a week to do it. Every year, most law enforcement agencies are doing this. We continue to do it. We've done it for many years, where we have annual active threat in-service type training. We do it in the summer just prior to school starting. We've worked with the school staff in the past to allow them to come in and either audit or watch it. Or we get some of the high school kids in drama to be role players for us, because it really changes the dynamic when people are screaming at you inside the building. But we go through and we pick a different building every year. We've done it at private business as well. So it's not just focused on the school, it's on the overall active threat environment. And how do we respond to those circumstances in cases, God forbid, they should ever come. Just generalized community policing. Again, this is our nexus to connect with our community and everybody in our community. So a lot of it drives through the school. We're cognizant of that. But in the same way, we try to find other opportunities throughout the year, throughout the summer, to connect with people and meet them where they are, kind of a thing. It's pretty common. This was we call a pop-up party. So we have staff, usually during the day, early afternoon, we'll put it on social media that we're going to be at pick a location, and people will show up. We've had anywhere from 50 to 70 people just to show up and hang out for a little bit. And then obviously we have people available for calls at the same time, or if they have to break for calls, that's always a priority to us. So reading with kids or interacting with kids at the elementary school, we get a fair amount of school visits that people will come through. And this was not last year's, was 24, but even the officers wanted to see Santa. So um, they got that opportunity as well. Shop with a Cop is a Dane County effort. But we do participate in that. I think we had 3 or 4 officers that went to Shop with a Cop last year. We do continue to do our Citizens Academy. It is hard to get people for 9 weeks is the struggle. So we're trying to, as best it sounds, to reimagine that a little bit. We've thought about doing just a couple of Saturdays for 5 hours a day and 2 or 3 Saturdays, doing it different cadence, doing it twice a month, same material. Challenge gets to be having enough people there when you do like scenario based stuff so that everybody can get a flavor for it. The ride alongs are always popular, but so we're continuing to work on that. We'll find a way. Coffee with a Cop still remains. The bike to school with an officer is another popular one. Yahara seems to get bigger and bigger every year. Eagle Point was bigger for a while, and Yahara Elementary seemed like they picked up. And then we're going to do something this year to expand it. So the DeForest kids who go to Windsor Elementary or to Harvest, that we'll find a way to make that happen as well. And then throughout the year, we'll still do things like take a kid to school. It's usually a fundraiser from like some of the local charities, nonprofits. So we'll offer that as well to pick a kid up, sometimes take them to breakfast and then take them to school after. It's funny because some of the little ones get like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be late for school." I said, "You're with me. I don't think you'll be late for school. It'll be okay." So it's kind of fun, but it's a good event that way. Our we've realized over the years, and the longest I've been doing this, 37 years or something like that. Um, we in policing realize that we have started to recruit way too late. You can't get to kids in college and think you're going to recruit a bunch of kids for policing. It just doesn't happen. So years ago, I challenged them to find some way to connect with kids during the summer, and that's where this youth academy thing kind of started. And then it's grown so well that we actually have a basic academy and an advanced academy. So you can't do them twice because we found it would be like every year my kid wants to come, they had fun, right? So we want to make it opportunistic for everybody. Um, so they'll go to the basic academy, which is a week-long experience, just learn a lot of different things from CSI type stuff to interview and interrogation, problem solving, working as a team, emergency vehicle operations, traffic stops or vehicle contacts, drone operations, a lot of the different things that we do. We get a real quick overview. And then when they come back to Advanced Academy, we just kind of ramp it up a little bit, make the problems more complex, really focus them working as a team. Anybody who's got kids in school know they do a lot of group projects, so they're kind of used to that stuff today. And now our inside joke is, can you find Officer Little George in the picture with the kids? Because some of them tower over her, and some of them tower over me as well. So that's not really saying a lot, but it's a very popular program. We get a lot of good interactions throughout the summer with it. So the Eagle Point third graders have really kind of helped take over the Stuff the Squad event. And it's great. We try to do it just before the summer so we can help Larsky Nibbles get stocked up for the summer. They kind of walk down the street. You'll see a big old line of kids walking from Eagle Point down to the PD. They drop the stuff off, Stuff the Squad, and then we run it over to the food bank for distribution in the community. So it's a good partnership for us that way. This last year, we have a new school resource officer. So Andrew Freeman finished his term as SRO, and now we have Haley Little George. You may know her as Haley Lochran, but she's been married now for a bit. She is doing just a phenomenal job with the school resource program and the things that she has come up with. A couple of her initiatives, she tries to make sure she gets to all the schools in the village, which is great. And Andy did the same thing. Don't get me wrong. This is not a slight on anything, but she really gets out and interacts with the kids. She started something which is kind of funny. She has lunch with Little George and friends. So she'll tell us what day she wants us to come. And generally it's her favorite lunch day. I mean, let's just not kid ourselves. She'll buy whatever officers come lunch out of her card that she refills with herself. And then you just sit around and talk to the kids. And it's generally the high school, middle school age kids where we try to really connect with and just humanize the badge a little bit, humanize the position. And that's really been successful, just trying to have that interaction. Plus, in the spring, I guarantee, just like Freeman, some kid's going to challenge her to play basketball after school. It just happens quite frequently. Award ceremony, you were all part of the one award from this year. But just throughout 2025, we use the period of April 1st through March 31st, because that way I can capture stuff that happened and try to get the recent type awards to try to make sure we're recognizing people's efforts in a timely manner. A lot of good awards that came out of it. Obviously, the Employee of the Year was Captain Rita last year, and then we had Excellence in Policing. I do an Excellence in Policing, Excellence in Community Policing, a Leadership Award. So those all come into it. Officer Coffran, obviously from the events that happened on July 20th of last year, not only got an award from the village board, but was also recognized down at the Capitol as a first responder hero through the Representative McCarville nominated him for that. So we were down there for that as well. Always a interesting and exciting time to see him be honored. He's getting a recognition from the State Patrol as well, coming up from that incident, because their award ceremony is coming up. So a week from Friday, he'll actually be recognized by the Wisconsin State Patrol. A little bit of turnover through 24, 25, and then it all depends. I try to do swearing in ceremonies when it's convenient for family, because it's a day for the family to really celebrate and respect and honor their new employee. But Zach graduated from the academy. Zach Bliffernick graduated from the academy. He's out on solo patrol doing great. Connor Haston, the top left, some you may have met, some you may have not. And Pete Christensen both graduated end of 24, so they finished field training in the 2025. They're on their by themselves doing great. And then Alyssa Bailey is graduated from Milwaukee Area Tech last just a couple months ago. So she's just finishing up field training. So everything is on par, but we try to make sure that we get to their graduation ceremonies. It's a significant step for them. It's a lot of work, 720 hours. That is the fastest yet slowest academy in your life, because you think, oh, I'm never going to get out of here. But my gosh, I just started. So it's a very interesting time. They learn a lot of good things, and we capitalize on it with field training after that. So let me just try to figure out how I can move this and just get this out of the way. There, that's a little better. So let's look at calls for service from last year. 2025 is the top bar graphs. If you can see that our call volume goes up again last year. Some of it is traffic related. I'll show you some heat maps here in a few minutes to kind of show you some of the hot spots in the village. But all in all, we see an increase from 2024 to 2025. We try to look at 3 to 5 years back. We published 3 years, but I'll look at 3 to 5 years back to see if there's patterns in the data, the sets that we look at. We look at it by month, and again, no surprise that June, July kind of lead the way, but December isn't that far behind when you start to get to those types of events. Some of this gets driven in different areas. Some of it is a little bit of traffic related, because those can count for calls for service. But we also get retail thefts that tick up during certain times of year that kind of drive the numbers. So our mental health calls, oh yeah, Kelly, if there's a secret to put this thing somewhere. That one? Oh, look at you go. Thank you. So you look at 2025 being the bottom data set here that I just now covered with some other little pop-up window. That's great. But we track a lot of different things with mental health calls. We track labor hours simply for the fact just to realize, is there a better way to improve our operation? But the total number of calls has obviously fluctuated. 23, 22 was a really high. 21 is coming off of COVID. So those numbers are really high. But they seem to be stabilizing, coming down a little bit. Our officers are really good at dealing with mental health. I'd like to think that some of the response and some of the things that help drive lowering that is also from our community policing efforts and being able to either respond and efficiently handle a situation, or being able to hopefully minimize some of the effects as well. We only had to take one person to Winnebago last year, which is helpful because it always seems like it comes 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I've either got to extend somebody so there's an officer in the village, or if it's somebody that we may have to at times call in a second person so we can send 2 officers up to Winnebago depending on the situation. We've been fortunate we haven't had to do that a lot, but now that detox has been closed, that's another challenge for us. Let's see where that goes. So we continue to monitor that situation. Juvenile mental health, again, you can see the 21, 22s were really high, again, coming off COVID, some other things. You take kids away from their friend groups and you take everything else and things can happen. But we have stabilized quite a bit. And again, we're on a downward trend as of right now, at least for mental health calls, only 37 of them in 2025, 9 involving a minor. And then, so it's about 24% of them were involving minors. OWI continues to be an area of focus for us, especially in the overnight hours. But we still get OWI or impaired drivers throughout the day. You'd be surprised that occasionally during the day, 10 o'clock in the morning, somebody will call, impaired driver. 9 a.m., I think they had one not too long ago. It continues to be an area of focus because it drives overall street safety. It's unpredictable and sometimes it can ebb and flow. A few years ago, we had Operation Safe Summer because the numbers got really, it was just out of control. It was like every traffic stop they made was an impaired driver at night, either drugs or alcohol. And it was a little, obviously dedicated effort from the staff, and they put a lot of dedicated effort into a lot of different things. But in the same way, it didn't seem like it was this exorbitant effort that they had to get to 150 that year. It was just the outlier year, I think. Things have, ebb and flow. Now we're at 70 last year, so we're a little bit of an uptick. But I'll take that with the staff being out and active at night as compared to just saying, well, the streets folded up into force. No, there's plenty of areas to be. So they work hard to be present at night. Again, the average BAC is a 0.10, which means which is good. We're getting people that most dangerous, believe it or not, is in that 0.07 to 1.1 for their response. The human response to alcohol is like the most dangerous part of it. So they're in a good spot getting with the average being a 0.10. I'm happy with that. 34% of the drivers with 1 or more priors. So it's, we see that pretty consistently as far as that 30 to 40% of people have been arrested for OWI prior. So it wasn't their first rodeo. Average age still being 34 last year. We do a little comparison just to see where we fall with other communities. And we're pretty much right in line with everybody. Some we're going to be a little bit higher. Some might be just how you count things. Some might be proximity to Madison or other things. There's so many different ways you could try to explain the data, but all in all, I think we're in a good place. Aggravated batteries are generally going to be domestic violence related type events. It's generally where we're going to see those here. Abuse, neglect, sometimes we get those reported to us through the school. We get referrals from CPS, so we have to respond to those. Damage to property, again, those kinds of things. We have had the intermittent cases of vandalism, which drives some of those things. Kids spray paint, it gets observed later, and then it just gets reported. The one thing with IBR-based incident-based reporting, is it's when it's reported. So even if you can't prove it happened in 25, it was determined it happened in 25, or it was reported in 25, it's counting for that year. When we start looking at actual case, not just closures, but clearances, and you can only clear things like 4 different ways. It's the year you clear the stuff. So if we were to have, let's just hypothetically say we cleared 30 burglaries this week, we haven't. We don't have 30 burglaries. Just hypothetical. Those would all count as 2026 clearances, even though it could be a 2025, 2024 event. So it kind of is a little bit flawed in the system because it goes to when it actually is reported and when it's cleared. Again, you can see our retail theft numbers still to be above everybody else. The one thing that we hear routinely, especially from our box store, is that we clear a lot more of the retail thefts than anybody else does too. So our staff does a pretty good job looking into things, getting to the root cause of it, trying to figure it out. Our training initiatives, again, they're very consistent where they've been in the past. We do the active threat. We still work a lot on de-escalation. We do that not just from talking about it, but we do a lot of force on force scenarios. So it's basically interactive role play with options, and the officer has no idea what they're walking into, which kind of really helps to develop them to talk to people. The young generation, we found one of the hardest things to do is talk to people. So they really focus a lot on that. The force on force is good. We have to do taser research every year. We do use of force so they understand what happens. And then how do they actually talk about it after the case is done in training. Vehicle contacts we continue to do. We still push our leadership and police organizations model. We have all of our FTOs through it. All of our supervisors are through it. Our admin staff has all been through it. It's now down to 2 weeks of leadership training that kind of looks at 4 systems, whether it be individuals, groups, leadership system, or reflective of yourself, and then organizational system theories. So they kind of understand what happens in an organization and how they might future down the road be a leader, such a formalized leader. Last year we bought in CPS, for lack of a better term, but they do minimal facts interviewing. So if a kid is reported as the victim of a crime, the worst thing you can do is interview them 4, 5, 6 times over and over and over again. They actually build trauma. So something called minimal facts interviewing is an important thing, where you just get enough to proceed, and then you stop and you let somebody who's trained that will take them to a safe harbor. They will do a recorded interview, so the child only has to be interviewed 1 time. They can use it in court as long as they do the process right. I've done this before in my previous department when I was a detective in sexual assaults, and it is powerful when you go to court and you play the kid's tape. And plus, you just don't have to keep asking the child the same question over and over and over. It's just better for everybody involved. So we bought them in. We actually had some folks from the school come over for the training as well. We did 2 sessions. It's 4 hours of training-ish. So it worked out really, really well. For staff, I saw them actually applying it like 2 days later. So it's good to have those connections. And then we still continue to work on officer override, which is a legal part now. So if you see somebody that you think is using force that's creeping up, we have control to step in and kind of push them off to the side and take control of the situation and de-escalate and calm things down. So we continue to work on all those different training initiatives through our in-service training. We still try to be strategic. We have our strategic plan. We talked about it. I brought it to you last year. We continue to work on a lot of those things. A lot of them are communications-based, community policing-based, and trying to divide the village up to make sure that we're providing equal coverage throughout the village. So we continue to work on those. Traffic safety continues to be an area of focus for us. Obviously, you approve the traffic grants every year, but it's beyond that. It's even out throughout shift work that they work on traffic safety initiatives. And then enhanced decision-making, we do that through training, so it keeps going. Again, I talked about some of this stuff a little bit already, but impaired driving, not only alcohol, but drugs is becoming an issue. So we have to continue to be mindful of that. We have 2 drug recognition experts in the department, Officer Gilson and Officer Deppy. So basically they can do a enhanced level of testing on an individual, and they'll pretty much figure out what they were on when they're stopped. It's pretty impressive to watch them take blood pressures and temperatures and pupil size and all kinds of things to kind of get to the bottom of the situation. We're trying to work still on speed and risky behavior, especially now as we start to move. I think it's supposed to be spring. I don't know in Wisconsin. I can't tell. It was freezing rain yesterday when I came to work. When I left the Capitol yesterday afternoon, it was 65 degrees. But with the kids starting to get ready, spring fever, getting out, being more people being active on the trails, being throughout the community, we're focusing more on that risky driving behavior because we're trying to prevent the really bad situations from happening. And then I applied for a training opportunity through CRITEC is what it's an acronym. It's the Collaborative Reform Initiative through Accountability and Training, Training something center. I can't remember the whole thing. It's through IECP, but it provides free training for law enforcement is what it does. So some years ago, I bought in IADLIST. Not even going to go with that acronym because I didn't get the first one right. So I'm going to just take a pass on that. but they did DDAX training for us. For those of you that were around for years, I kind of brought in and talked to you about what it was. It's data-driven approach to crime and traffic safety. That one I remember. It's really an easy way for law enforcement to deploy using data as compared to using hypotheticals. Well, I think something might be bad here. This is where our numbers show we got to be this time. Let's go take care of it. We've been deploying that now for maybe 6 years. Been really, it's easy to grab onto, right? See dot, address dot, heat dot gets bigger. We really need to address the dot. But our staff really kind of understands it. Sergeants really understand it, and they kind of drive those deployments. So we do that. The CRITAC opportunity I applied for, and I'm just waiting for them to get back to me with it, is intelligence. It's about intelligence-led policing. So it's like a DDAX on a little bit of steroids. So it talks a little bit more about the data we generate, how do we use it to our advantage, instead of saying, we have all this stuff and it just sits in a cabinet somewhere. So we, like I talked about during the professional standards report, we look at our body worn cameras, we look at the officers' video cameras, because otherwise you just have video footage sitting somewhere. We want to make them safer. We want to make sure we're doing the right things. We hold people accountable through using the tools that we've been fortunate enough to get through budgets and things like that. So we still use the grant shifts for to try to curb some of the risky driving behaviors, traffic deployments. We will do those if we have, like Thursday right now is a full staff day. So if it's not a training day, we'll oftentimes pull out traffic deployments, and as well as during the week, other days when we have not anybody else off, we'll find time the sergeant will go out and lead. They'll take 2 or 3 to a certain area. We'll look for people texting while driving. We'll look for people that are just not paying attention, disregarding traffic lights, signal signs, speed, all those types of things. The school zones continue to be an area of focus for us in the morning and the afternoon, because let's face it, the last thing a kid should have to worry about, or parents should have to worry about, is that their kid didn't get to school because of a traffic issue. So we're there basically every day that we could possibly be there. Our staffing model continues the same. Obviously, the 10-hour iteration has helped us budgetarily. It actually puts more staff on the street. We get an extra 26 hours of labor per person that way. So it's good. It's worked out well so far. I haven't heard any issues from the union on it, but it's definitely helped in the scheduling side of it. Last year, we did have 11,349 calls for service was the total number. I probably should have put that with the graph, but that's kind of where the numbers are. The one thing I'm noticing is that the calls are becoming more complex, so that it's not just a quick call, fix this, go on, move on. It's requiring some additional levels of investigation. The data pilot data that I showed you, that I showed you last time, the ability to download digital media and just analyze it quicker, has worked out well, and that's kind of helped stream that a little bit, but the calls are getting more where we have to do more work to kind of get to all the facts of the case. We still use the crime mapping. This is kind of the heat maps that we use that drives our data-driven approach model. So we do use this. It kind of helps with resource allocation, and it helps when we're trying to look at where to deploy resources so that the community knows that we're always there. So some of the crash data you can see, this is specifically to crash. If you had to guess, I probably should have asked you before, you probably heard me mention it, but right now the current most, I don't want to say dangerous, it's not like, oh my God, don't ever go there. But the area with the highest frequency of traffic crashes is 19 and 51 on Highway 19, from people either disregarding the traffic signal, trying to make the light, whatever that is, that intersection's been the worst, so it's had extra attention. The one on the right might be a little skewed because that's right in front of the State Patrol on North Street. So if somebody shows up at the State Patrol and they report it there, the community map will pull it if they don't change the address in the crash report. So that could be a little bit skewed, because I don't remember this many traffic crashes on North Street in the 900 block. But that's to say that they're not there. And again, we get on the 19 again, and there's other, or I'm sorry, this is by Fleet Farm. This will be just west of Highway 19, or at the interstate, excuse me, on Highway 19. That seems to also be a common spot for crashes. So we use that. We look at the times. They'll break it down further and pull out the time windows of when the incidents are actually happening, so that we can make sure that we are there to try to do it. Last thing I just wanted to bring to your attention tonight is some of the issues we're starting to see. And we put this on our social media page, but just trying to bring community awareness to the e-bikes and everything else. E-bikes, obviously, they're legal to have. You can ride them in the street. They're subject to the rules of the road. You got to stop at stop signs, all that stuff, just like a regular bicycle. But we're starting to see this become onto the trail system, which is okay until you zoom up behind somebody and you scare somebody, out of their sneakers. So we're trying to curb this. We've been out on the trails a little bit more already. Once the weather gets nicer and we know the NEV will get in and out, we'll probably be out there more, but we're trying to just spread the word. These and the scooters are the same thing, right? It's just that whole being respectful of people in their environment so that everybody can enjoy the amenities the village has to offer. The one that gets to be challenging because everybody wants to argue about is these. These are technically illegal to ride anywhere on a village path. They can't be on the sidewalk, and unless they're modified, they can't be on the streets. So we're seeing more and more kids that have these. You can ride them on private property if you have permission of the property owner, but realistically, these are not legal to be on the street. Some of them go upwards of 35 miles an hour, which is very problematic. Unless you have a driver's license, you technically can't operate these on the street. And even with a driver's license, they're not street legal because they don't have brake lights, they don't have blinkers, a headlight, a horn, all the things that are required to make it operational on the street. So what we're asking is if, I'm sure everybody's going to be calling you about these types of things. We put it on Facebook and we got a little lambasted. The captain tried to respond to some of the comments just to the awareness. We're trying to do this through awareness, trying to avoid getting to a part where we have to confiscate these things when they're found on the street. But I mean, it was the other day it was an off day, it was a weekend, and there had to be about a line of about 6 to 8 kids riding next about the railroad track between Holham Street and Vinburn. I called and they went over there and kind of grabbed one or two and just kind of talked to them, but we're trying to avoid that. I mean, I was coming out of Conservancy Play or coming up River Road off of Windsor Road earlier that same day, made a call because the kids came out of the construction site where they were probably just having a good old time down there until the developer comes back to say what happened. And now they're on the trail, right? And it's just, I get it. Parents bought it. It's fun. I'm not saying I don't want kids to be able to have fun. I just want them to be safe. Our worry is that somebody's out on the road in this thing, they're going to get hit by a car because they just don't follow the rules of the road. They're not visibly and identifiable and all those things. So we're trying to get the word out about these. They're really marketed, they're off-highway motorcycles more than they are. So it's a toy more than it is a vehicle to be in the street. So that's what I have for you tonight. Actually, I'll just do the update if that's okay, just right now, so I don't have to come back to it later. But one of the things is I'm on the board for Wisconsin Chiefs. So one of the things I get to do is go testify to legislation. Yesterday was an interesting day. I was down there when the governor signed the crypto bill. So that will help in a lot of different ways. The crypto bill will make it illegal basically, or it'll restrict the amount of money people can put into a crypto machine, like a crypto ATM. Think of it, our gas stations, or I think Ace Hardware has one as well. There might be one at Walgreens. So it restricts it to like $1,000 a day, which, let's face it, that's throwing $50,000 cash on a scam into those machines. It can be a lifesaver. So that bill was signed into law yesterday, and that'll be a good one for all of us, especially with when the captain and I went down to testify on that legislation in the Senate. We were at about $300,000 in loss in the community, and that was within the last 6 weeks. So when these things happen, they happen big. So now I think that's it, unless there's questions.
Questions from board members? Go ahead.
Chief, this was a great report. Just a quick question about one of the programs you guys used to use, and I know we haven't seen it in a while, but the mock crash that you guys would do with the high school drama. Do you guys still do that? Are you planning on bringing that back? Because I know it included crash, but it was also an opportunity to talk to our kiddos about drinking and different things of that nature. I know we had a couple incidences with kids dying from alcohol poison and different things of that nature. So that was the first question. The last question that I have is with these bikes. Have you noticed an uptick of these bikes since the bike track on the other side of the highway is closed. And is that something we need to worry about with those kiddos not having, a place to get that energy out and also do that activity now, nowhere to go?
Yeah. As to the bikes, I think it's just they become more popular lately. I wouldn't attribute it to one thing closing or the other. With those, again, if it doesn't have pedals, it's not a bicycle, it's a motorcycle. So it's the tricky thing with that. And as far as the mock crash, we've talked with the school about do they want to continue to do it? They've done like a different iteration of it, not bringing out a crushed car and all that kind of stuff and doing the role playing thing, but just having time to talk to kiddos in the I shouldn't say kiddos, to the young adults in the high school, just about some of the dangers of impaired driving and making smart choices. I don't know what that looks like in the future.
Anything else that you got? Anybody? Jan?
Yep. Great report, Chief. I wanted to circle back to the Citizens Academy and say that when I did it in 2022, I went in with a great appreciation for officers and what you do for us. And then when I was in it, I learned a lot. And I just wanted to say that for anyone that's listening to this, that I would encourage anyone to go through the program because there's just so much there that you don't know and learn. And coming out of the program, upon the completion, I felt that I just really came out with even a greater appreciation. So like I said, I would definitely recommend the program to anyone. And I did have a question though. How long have we been using the crime, or have you been using the crime mapping software? Because I don't recall seeing anything in that program about that. And I would think that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, we've had different versions of it. The maps that you saw were from DOTs, from their community maps. I believe that's where those came from. We also have it through LexisNexis through our RMS software, so we can search for crime a different way. There is a community portal available that I could launch on that. I just haven't done it because it's too specific to address. So it will almost show exactly where something happened, and I don't want to out anybody at their house if something happened there. So that's why I haven't launched into the community map side of it. But we do have a way to do it for the PD, for the officers. If we start looking like theft from autos, if we start looking at a trend of kids that decide to go through the village and try to see whose cars open on their driveways at night, we can try to map that kind of stuff out. And that's the other, that Crytek training I was mentioning before. That'll be one of those enhanced type of data awareness pieces that we'll get into.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Jan. Anybody else? I've got one question for you. You mentioned the number of crashes and you mentioned 3 different hotspots. I wonder if you could speak more of that. Do you know how many crashes there were, or could you share that with us in an email if you don't know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I don't know that number specifically, but I'll get that information for you. It's going to be 19 and 51 is the biggest frequency, and then after that, it's going to be the Pick and Save parking lot. It seems that we get a lot of property damage crashes there.
But they tend to be property damage. We haven't had too many injuries yet.
Correct. Yeah, we do get the injury crash occasionally. What's really helped is that 4-way stop sign at Vinburn and Northtown, because we were getting injury crashes there pretty consistently. That's kind of resolved. If we do get a crash, it's mostly property damage because obviously it's low speed coming out of the stop sign. But yeah, most of our crashes are property crashes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Jan?
I just thought of another thing. I was wondering if you could clarify, or maybe someone else might need to clarify this, going back to the ordinance that we have for the park trails. So e-bikes are allowed, and I think we have a exception in there for scooters. And but you're saying if it's a cycle, and I like what you said there, if it doesn't have pedals, it's a cycle. We specifically are not allowing cycles no matter what.
Correct.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm
Thank you.
looking at the House of Legal Wisdom to see if he has a different answer. But I believe that to be true. The easiest way, like I said, there's different classes of e-bikes and all that kind of stuff, and it generally gets into speed and things of that nature. But we really look at if it doesn't have pedals, it's not a bicycle, and that's the easiest way to tell the young officer to differentiate. If it's got pedals, it's likely an e-bike. Still got to follow the rules of the road. Got to be courteous and respectful and prudent and reasonable on the trails.
Did we have that little note on the police website saying if it doesn't have pedals? Because I did kind of read it, but I don't recall that. I might have just missed it.
I'll confirm it.
Yeah, I think that would be good to have if you don't. Because it's so clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we're good. You have some notes? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Item 5.1 is administration update. Bill?
A couple of items here. First, Brandon Hennis is in the crowd. He will be starting the finance director position April 22nd, and Carol will then be moving to the assistant finance director role. We received notice from the Wisconsin DOT, Department of Transportation, that they launched a website for the interstate corridor project. So if you remember, that goes from approximately Highway 30 all the way up to, I believe, Mauston. And so that website, I can give you the web address here, or we can post a link to it, is I-39-9094 project.wisconsin.dot.gov. Again, we'll post a link to it, but that website is going to explore the whole project. Some of the items that we're already talking about beyond the County V interchange is the River Road Bridge, and how that potentially is going to look like here in the near future. We received a grant award from the Wisconsin Cities County Management Association for $5,000 to offset costs associated with our internship program. Gavin, as reported earlier this year, Gavin Denning is our management intern. And so that would be helpful for that program. You have, as part of your packet or on your desk, a article from Business View magazine. So the Village of DeForest was featured in the March edition of that magazine. That magazine highlights top managed communities based on innovative management, sustainable growth, infrastructure development, and economic resilience. So it's a good read. And then lastly here, the Chamber of Commerce is having their State of the Chamber on April 16th, which is next Thursday from 8:30 to 10:30. As a member of the Chamber, the board is invited to attend that event. They do or would like registrations for that. So if you are interested in going, please let me know and I can register you for that event. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Financial update, Carol?
Yeah, I can just report on the fact that our auditors from Baker Tilly have been working on our annual audits over the last 2 weeks, and we have pretty much wrapped up that work. So they will be putting together our state report and our PSC report, and typically we'll have the final report ready to present to you in June.
Thank you very much. Item 5.3, I believe, was done by Chief already. 5.4, Public Services Update. Is anybody filling in or online? Nope. Item 5.5, Community Development Update. Alex?
A couple things. There was a flurry of legislation that was signed over the last, I call it, week or so. A couple housing related I just want to share. Wisconsin Act 173. As you recall, we just took an affordable housing extension for a year. Act 173 allows that extension to go up to 2 years, among a bunch of other housing related activities related to streamlining approvals. Wisconsin Act 183 was a tax credit to employers providing childcare, which I know some of our local businesses also do that, so that's a benefit for them. Wisconsin Act 235 allows the creation of residential tax increment districts. So this is a new thing. This is geared towards workforce housing. This would be specifically for developments that are entirely consisting of owner-occupied, single-family or two-family, with a set of criteria for smaller lot sizes, size of the single-story residences, two-story residences aimed at affordability. Those TIF districts are actually exempt from the 12% cap, which, as you recall, the state sets a limit of having 12% of equalized value within TIF districts. This is exempt for that. However, any residential TIF district has, there's a 3% overall equalized value that can be within those community-wide. So that's a big shift there. And then there were a couple, Wisconsin Act 237 and 239 that were related to WHEDA, which is the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, to help some of their workforce home loan programs, created a workforce home loan program, and then clean up some of their other loan programs for housing. So a lot of activity at the legislature. And then locally, one update is if you go to the corner of B and Main Street right now, you'll see a fence around the CDA property. That is, I think that went in place yesterday just to secure the site. And then we'll be getting some signage up on that in the near future. Construction still a ways away. So if anybody asks what's going on there, it's simply just a fence to secure the site.
Thank you, Alex. And sorry, could I ask you again, what was the act number that was the affordable housing?
Wisconsin Act 173 was the one for the affordable housing extension. Is that what the one that you're referring
The
to?
TIF one is what I'm saying.
The TIF one, so that's the affordable housing extension, and that increases it to 2 years. The other one was specifically creating residential tax increment districts, not necessarily with an affordability metric, and that was Wisconsin Act 235.
Thank you. Administrative services update, Callie.
I have an update on the election, which was very good day. We had a total participation of 3,458 voters. So we had a turnout rate of 44%, which is very impressive, I think. Last spring, we had a turnout of 38%. So it was a good day, and I'd like to just say thank you to all of our election workers and staff that put so much work and effort into making that day very successful. The next thing is we are in the process of changing our agenda management program from OnBase to Granicus. We've just launched internal training with the staff members that are responsible for making agendas. The hope is that will be up and running in June. So I'll provide you more information when we get a little closer and I have more answers as to exactly when, and we'll show you how the new program works. It is a web-based program, so there will be no more app that tends to have issues. So more on that to come. And then the last thing is I received an email from the league about a training that they're offering for elected officials and municipal staff. And it's a training and a roundtable. It is on April 22nd in the Village of Oregon. The training is going to include civility and governance, intro to Robert's rules, and a hands-on mock meeting. The training will be from 2 to 5, and then from 5 to 7 is a roundtable with a light dinner. So if you are interested in going to that, please let me know and I can get you signed up for that. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Callie. Question? Yep, Jan.
I just had a mental block. It's because you had 3 things in there, right? So it was the vote. Oh, the voting. So I had a resident tell me that one of our voting counting machines went down at the library. And on the day of voting, And if that's true, what happened with that machine and what's the fix?
Yeah, so we did have it's called the DS200. It glitched, and as somebody was putting in a ballot, it just kind of froze. So it caused a little bit of a backup in the library, but we were able to, because we do have two of those machines at each polling location. So we were able to kind of pivot and have the ballots put into the machine we use for absentees. So they were all counted, and the machine had to be powered down and then it powered back up, and all of the data was still there. We do a count, a balance count with the number of ballots that have been put into the tabulators versus the number of voters that have come through every hour to make sure that our numbers are right on. And after we had gotten everybody a little cleared out, we did do a count and we were right back on. So it was just a glitch in the machine. Very
Thank-
nerve-wracking.
thank
but
you.
We made
Thank
it
you.
through. So
Thank you for all you do and thank you to all of your staff for all you do
Yes.
with handling the voting.
I'll pass it on to them.
And I will echo that because I know I talked to you at some time around 6 and you were gauging to be done by 9, and I think you had it posted by like about 9:20, so very impressive. 5.7, recreation community enrichment update.
So Trisha gave me an update this week that we have less than 10 spots left for the Dragon Art Fair. And we have, this year we'll be going completely around the park. So we are adding additional stalls this year for artists. That means we're ahead of where we were last year already. And then she's also in the process of working on the America 250 mural project. So we have about 600 tiles that we're looking to complete that project. So still looking to sell some. Basically, the cost for those tiles, any funds that we make go back into future public art campaigns. So it was kind of started with the dragons, and then we use that to be able to do this project, and hope to continue to be able to do more public art campaigns in the future. And if you haven't heard about the America 250, when that mural is done, it will go on the western wall of the fire station here. And so we'll keep it up as long as it will look pretty. But we're looking forward to that. Goal is to unveil it at 4th of July, but we've got a lot of tiles left. So if you know anyone, spread the word, please. Youth soccer started this week. We have around 350 kids that are signed up through U6 through U10. So it'll be another busy season with that. And we're also getting the ACs started up. So we have an in-staff training this weekend. The high school's hosting a quad out at the athletic complex. So we'll do some training prior to that, and then they'll stay open for that quad, weather pending. And then we're getting close to getting the community garden started up. Right now, we only have 3 organic plots left. And then our elevated plots are open, but otherwise everything else is full. So it's getting busy.
Thank you very much, Reese. Item 5.8, communications update. Stacy?
So last week, Thursday, was the Community Projects Open House. So we had about 35 to 40 people in attendance for that. Lots of positive feedback from those that attended. If you did miss the event, all of the information can be found on Engage to Forest 2026 Community Projects. And then also this week, we wrapped up interviews for our communications coordinator position, looking to hire a person at the end of this month.
Very nice, thank you. Item number 6, any other business that lawfully comes before the committee for discussion? Seeing none. Number 7 is adjournment. And unless somebody stops me, I will say we were adjourned by unanimous consent. 5:59, so we can be 6 o'clock. I would say, I guess, the little authority that I have as a trustee, I'll say we'll take 5 minutes and re-adjourn at 6:05. Everybody good with that? Thank you.
Okay, we will call the Thursday, April 9th, regular village board of the Village of DeForest to order. First item today. Because of the vacancy in the village president seat, we will need a trustee to preside over this meeting. So if I can get a motion to nominate a trustee to run the meeting.
I nominate Jim.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Jim?
Thank you, Bill and everybody. And I do want to note that the meeting is called to order at 6:06. Just on this clock. And Kelly, you have roll call, I'm assuming? And recitation of the pledge. I'm gonna ask Tashidra if you'd be willing to lead us. Thank you. Announcements, there's none on the agenda. So I'm gonna move to the consent agenda. There are 3 items. Does anybody wish to take anything out of the consent agenda? I'm seeing none, but I would ask myself if we could take the 5.2 out. So consent agenda, I think that just happens when I ask, right? So consent agenda currently is 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. Is there anybody? Motion by Brad, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 5.2. I guess I'll ask if anybody else has discussion or I'll bring up my point. Yep, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I was curious. It said 30% of gross revenue goes to Lions Club. I was wondering how much did that come out to last year for the percentage of the net revenue?
Meaning, like, how much did we pay them, or just total?
Yeah, just total percentage of net did that 30% of gross come out to?
I would have to look at the total numbers of what our revenue, I don't have those numbers with me, like currently. I would have to look at that based off of like sponsorship, because that would be other revenues that we would get in that they don't have from, and they wouldn't get any of the percentage of the vendor fees as well that we collected from any of the food vendors.
Okay, so there was a substantial amount of other revenue remaining after they were paid?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Brad? And the one thing that I want to bring up in a question, sorry, Jan, did you have a on clause 9, it talked about prohibiting complimentary beverages. And I just know in years past when I volunteered for that, I should put volunteer in quote because you used to get free beverages when you volunteered. Is that a practice that's no longer being done?
Yeah, correct. Because since we're doing that profit share, if they were giving away complimentary beverages, we would be taking that loss as the village. So it's not something that would be permitted anymore.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that that's the way it should be written.
Yep.
Jan, did you have something?
Yes, okay. So we started this last year with the Lions Club. And when I went through and looked at the contract for this year, I didn't notice any changes. Were there any changes?
We had one slight change, which was when we would provide payment to them. I think last year it was that we would provide payment by July 15th. And we were like, that's not just, that's really just not a realistic deadline from everything happening after the 4th. So I think we extended it to like August 15th. We gave ourselves another month. So they had no disagreement with that change. I think that was the only change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Are we looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 5.2.1.
Thank you, Jan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brad. Any further discussion? Seeing none, and again, Alicia, if you do have something, please speak up because you're not always on screen. But,
Thanks, Jim.
yep, thank you. So seeing none and hearing none, I'll ask everybody in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 6-0. 7 public appearances. Looks like we have one. Okay, thank you. So we currently do not have any public appearances that are not under items. Yep. So presentation 7.1 is a presentation regarding the DeForest Windsor Joint Housing Report. And got a note saying that it's Mark, so I'm assuming Mark's online, or is that?
Unfortunately, I have the honor of playing Mark tonight.
Yeah.
Mark is dealing with the illness and then combined single parenting this evening, so he's not able to join. Included in your packets is a joint report that we do annually with the Village of Windsor, Village of DeForest, and the DeForest Area School District. So it's a cost share between the 3 communities, essentially looking at housing and treating the entire area as one housing market. Couple big takeaways from the report itself. Lots of housing has been going up over the past couple of years, the majority of which, at least in 2025, was in the form of multifamily, residential, and condos, particularly in DeForest. I will say that our community authorized building permits for over 600 multifamily units, which mainly was attributed to 2 developments. That would be Terrapin Run, which is over on River Road, and then the Springs at DeForest, which is by Fleet Farm. Between those 2, there were over 500 permits just for those 2 developments alone. Continuing trend noted in the report is the availability of single-family lots for development continues to decline. Although I will say that there have been, over the past couple of weeks, some positive developments in that respect. Homestead Edition, which is south of 19 by DeForest Yards in the Savannah Brooks neighborhood there, has seen lot sales over the past couple of weeks, as well as building permit activity. Rivers Turn Phase 3, which is in Conservancy Place, has also seen permit activity perk up this early this year. And then, excuse me, last week we had a staff meeting, which is an exciting development with a national builder who will be moving forward with building out the remaining lots in Heritage Gardens development as well. So that's been sitting for a while. So these things go in cycles. I think we're excited to see the single family side of things perking up here. Certainly could still use some new subdivisions planned, but we've also had recently some productive conversations with the developers of the Knolls, which is again in Conservancy Place on River Road, to move forward with potentially platting that area as well, which would, I believe it's roughly 140 to 150 lots. So again, the cyclical, the real estate cycles are kind of shifting, I would say. And then the last thing that I'll point out in the report is the cost of single family homes, particularly new construction, continues to rise as it does, frankly, in Dane County as a whole. So if there's any questions, happy to answer or talk about this as a whole, but I think the report does a good job of laying out the dynamics.
Thank you, Alex. Questions, board members? I have just one. You mentioned Heritage Gardens. I'm just curious if that national builder, are they planning on replatting or using the current plan?
No, from the preliminary conversations that we'd have, it'd be using the current.
Very nice. Thank you, Alex. Anybody else? No old business, so new business is 9.1. Resolution 2026-037. A resolution granting signature authority to the village administrator. Bill and Alan is up for the staff presentation, followed by one public speaker, Rebecca, under the next item.
So as you know, the village president's seat is currently vacant, and until that seat gets appointed, we do have ongoing obligations that need to be executed. For example, I believe in February of this year, village board approved a number of contracts to be executed by the clerk, the village president and the clerk. Those contracts have now been drafted and ready for signature. Unfortunately, no one else authorized to execute them. And so construction on these projects are at a standstill currently. And so that's what we're asking for, is for the board to authorize the village administrator to execute these contracts, these documents, and then to have that authority cease upon appointment of a village president.
Thank you, Bill. Anything you wanted to add, Alan?
The other thing that the resolution does is it delegates to the entire board all of the other functions of the village president that are not involving just signing documents. So things like village president by statute issues fireworks permits. The board would have to issue those until there's a village president in place.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. So that is our staff presentation. In item 9.1.2 is the public appearances, and we have one registered speaker, and that is Rebecca Witherspoon. Could you come up? And I believe this is 3 minutes, is that correct?
And I apologize for my voice, and I'm going to try hard not to cough. I'm just getting my voice back after almost a month.
Name and municipality.
Name is Rebecca Witherspoon. My address is on my form. I am in support of granting signature authority to the village administrator during the temporary absence of a village president. And I encourage this board to vote in favor of this resolution. As far as I'm concerned, he has shown integrity in his job, and I think he is trustworthy for that. Secondly, I want to also publicly thank Trustee Allen for her time and service as a village trustee. She served with honor and integrity and a willingness to speak her mind, even when it was not easy or politically convenient. I also think it is important to say that too often in our community, political disagreements have crossed the line into personal attacks. During this most recent election season, there were individuals and groups who, in my opinion, unfairly misrepresented Trustee Allen's record and character. One example was a suggestion that her previous resignation from the board somehow disqualified her from future service, when in reality she had stepped down during an incredibly difficult and tragic period in her personal life. But I guess the truth really doesn't matter anymore. Unfortunately, this kind of behavior has not been limited to Trustee Allen. Over the past year and a half, there has been a growing pattern of misinformation, personal attacks, and efforts to discredit trustees and residents simply because they hold different political views. I know this personally, as y'all know. Last month, during public comments at the last board meeting, false claims were once again made about me, why I resigned from this board last September. The truth is very simple. I resigned just 10 days after my husband unexpectedly died from cancer, which was a direct result of his exposure during Vietnam to Agent Orange. But again, I guess that truth doesn't matter. I was grieving then, and I still am grieving. And at the same time, I no longer felt safe serving on this board due to threats, because I had dared to vote to remove fluoride from our water. No one should feel that way while serving our community. My hope for this village is that we can move away from division, the partisanship, and the personal attacks. I hope we can get back to the place where people are judged by their ideas, their character, and their willingness to serve, not by political labels or loyalty to one group or ideology. I know that that may feel difficult right now, but I still believe it is possible. And I hope we will all work together for the betterment of our village. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. So item 9.1.3, discussion and possible action. And you are already doing what I was going to ask. Could you pull up the resolution? So it's there. Okay. Is there discussion or a motion, Colleen?
I'll make a motion to approve 2026-037.
Second.
Motion by Colleen, seconded by Tashidra. Discussion, anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Item 9.2, as soon as I flip the sheet, is resolution 2026-038, a resolution establishing fees for building permits and inspection in the village of DeForest. Is this you, Alex?
Yeah, so just brief overview. Last fall, we went out to RFP for new building inspection services. We ended up continuing with General Engineering Company and executed a contract with them in January. As part of that contract, there was an exhibit with an updated fee schedule for their services. And so what's in front of you tonight is an update to what will be our posted fee schedule to align with what was in that contract. As noted in the memo that's accompanying the materials in the packet, this is sort of part one of a broader update. It doesn't update some of our fees for development applications, some of that type of activity. We're hoping to bring you a more comprehensive update at a future meeting, but this will align us with what our contractual obligation is currently.
Thank you, Alex. There is no public appearances, so discussion and possible action. Is there any discussion from the board? Yes, I have one thing I want to ask. I noticed that some of the fees were going up, I'll say percentage-wise, quite a bit. And I'm wondering where those numbers came from. I can point out a few, but I see you shaking your head, so I'm guessing you know a few yourself. So.
Yep. So these numbers are all born out of essentially what we're going to be charged by GEC. So this is where they've set their fees at. And essentially we're passing those fees on. So how they determine those costs, I'm assuming that was a bit of market analysis on their part. But you're right. I mean, there are a couple in there where there are significant jumps.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's too bad, but you said we're sort of in the situation. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you recall, when we went out to RFP for this, there was not a lot of other competition. So that's part of it.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Any further discussion? Or again, we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 2026-038.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brad. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 6-0. 9.3 is a resolution 2026-039, resolution authorizing the village administrator to release a trail easement over lots 3 through 21, Homestead Edition to Savannah Brooks subdivision. And I believe the staff presentation is by Bill.
So what you see before you is the northern portion of the Homestead Edition. This is located in the southeast quadrant of Highway 19 and Highway 51. So if you look at the map here, this is Highway 51 going north to south, Highway 19 going east to west here. The subdivision that we're looking at is just to the southeast of that. This is Williamsburg Way coming north to south and Highway 19 here. We've been requested by the developer to release a 14-foot pedestrian biking easement along the north edge of these lots here. When this whole subdivision, the Savannah Brooks subdivision was platted, is my understanding that that easement was put in there as anticipation of this area being commercial at the time, and anticipating a trail that would run east-west from Sun Prairie to Wanakee. Since then, the subdivision has gone through a number of changes, primarily this section being turned or going from commercial to what is now mostly residential. And so this easement and that sidewalk or pedestrian path would be right through the backyards of most folks in this subdivision or along this section of street. As such, there's a laundry list of items why staff supports releasing this easement. Some of which include that the right of way is significant here, and that any future pedestrian path or bike path likely would be a part of a DOT project in the future. If you look at the boundary lines here, there's also a conflict point where this easement inside this property line would not align with the current right of way or property line. Which then transitions into some sensitive areas, environmentally sensitive areas. And so there's a lot of questions as to how and when a trail would get built. And so again, as requested by the developer in assisting them, in providing them an easier path to be able to sell the lots there. Assuming that there's no residents, no property owners that would want a sidewalk in their backyard, staff is recommending that the village board release the easement. This proposal did go for review at the Planning and Zoning Commission last month, and that is also their recommendation, is to release the easement. Happy to take any questions. I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff here, but I can take questions.
Thank you, Bill. So again, there's no public appearances, so discussion and possible action. And Bill offered questions if anybody has one. Go ahead, Brad.
Bill, I'm never in favor of giving back a space that we could control. I understand the reasons why they want this. What I understood is from reading through that is that the county, I believe, if they wanted to do something or had a future project, that they could take that space anyways and do this project for the bike path.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things going on here. So if you look at this north line, that's the edge of the right of way. That easement is on the south side of that property line. What some of the points also talk about is that there is a setback area, right of way setback area for DOT, which is 50 feet. from that right of way line. And so there's also a question of whether or not we can build within that 50 feet setback, that pedestrian path. So whatever planning comes in the future is going to have to require involvement of the DOT as to where potentially they would put that path. And we're not even sure if that's going to be on the south side. You know, if you look at the north side of the highway has more room on that side. So there's just too many questions at this point. One of the alternatives that they were the developer was proposing was CSMing or subdividing the lots into outlots, which would dedicate the land immediately to the village. But we didn't like that idea either. At the end of the day, having this easement out there and having private property would suggest that we would have maintenance obligations along that section for who knows how long. So yeah, I am of the thinking of you, once we get property and we don't want to return it, but in this case, we thought long and hard about it and it made sense.
Thanks for that. And last question, have you heard of any thought of expanding that road by the DOT at some point, or has that not been a discussion?
So we actually expanded a portion of it, I believe, 3 years ago now. There has been no discussion thus far with DOT about further expansion of Highway 19, east or west. I know that they are doing reconstruction from River Road to Highway 113, I believe, and that's been in discussion.
I guess I am aware of that project, and it's from River Road all the way into one of the intersections in Wanakee, and there's no expansion. It's at least between River Road and 113. So sorry. Anything else, Brad? Other discussion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve resolution 2026-039 as written, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Second.
So motion by Tashidra, and I heard Jan as a second first. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Motion 9.4 is the resolution 2026-040. Resolution authorizing the village administrator to accept a donation of land. Bill Chang again for the staff presentation.
So this is another proposal by a landowner, developer, more recently here within the Village of the Forest. So what we're looking at here is, this is North Street, Highway 51, north and south. This is Ball Court right here. And just a couple of years ago, this parcel right here used to be one parcel. It was subdivided for the development of First Choice Dental. This lot was created and split, I believe, as part of the construction of the roundabouts in Ball Court, which left these remnant pieces here and here. So the property owner is proposing to donate those two parcels to the village at this point, believing that it makes more sense to be within the right of way versus held by private property. That's the extent of my presentation. I'll take any questions at this point.
Thank you, Bill. There is no public appearances, discussion, questions, possible action.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Brad, seconded by Tashidra. Any discussion? I guess, Bill, I do have a question. Has the adjacent property owner been approached if they would want that land?
I think Alex might have more information on that.
It's a work in progress. They're a little bit challenging to get a hold of. But it certainly is something that we're trying to work through.
Okay, and I would just state my concern with that is one of those parcels looks to be pretty much all pavement that I would, without knowing where the lines were, I would assume was their driveway. And if we accept that as our right of way, that's now our responsibility to maintain. So I just wonder what we want to do about that. Is that's something that we can accept and then say donate to them in the future, or do we want to have that discussion before we accept the donation?
Just to clarify, it wouldn't become a part of the right of way. It would become village property. So it would just be a
Very
repeat ownership.
I guess, Alex, what is your thoughts as far as the
So
exploring-
I'm actively trying to get a hold of that other property owner to gauge their interest. However, we want to eventually approach disposing of that, I guess, is a decision that you all will have to make when we get there, assuming this goes through. But certainly, I mean, that logically makes sense to talk to them about it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Jen?
So just to expand on that whole conversation, Alex, you said it would logically make sense to have a discussion with them. Would it logically make sense to just put this on hold for a little bit? Because I'm thinking, do these property owners that are donating the land want this, want to donate this because of course it's not of any value to them, but also it would be a tax write-off. But there's still quite a few months into the year. So would we maybe just want to put this off and bring it back to the agenda after we speak to the other party, the other property owners, to find out that for sure that they will take it?
You certainly could. You're right. I mean, we are early in the year. I know that the donating party would still have a process to go through after this. Conceivably, that wouldn't be an issue timing wise to the end of the year. I also think about if we were to do that, at what point is our cutoff date if I'm unable to get a hold of that property owner? And if I am unable to get a hold of that property owner by that cutoff date, do you still want to move forward with this donation or not? So those are all things, I guess, to consider in that choice.
Anything else, Jen?
No, nothing else. Nothing else. I'm just kind of wondering how the rest of the board is feeling.
Jim?
Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if there's not an immediate rush, can we wait to hear back to see before we make a decision?
I think we'd be looking for the change in the motion if that's the desire of the board. Right now, the motion is to approve the resolution as written.
The motion could be made to postpone.
Okay.
I guess
with the pending motion on the floor.
Okay.
Outside of a motion, I'd probably also be looking for, I don't know, a drop dead date that you'd want that decision by, or a contact or no contact by.
Thank you, Alex.
So we could make a motion to postpone it and put a time element in there.
Yeah, you can make a motion to postpone to a date certain in the future.
I think to honor both, I think because I think the donation is great. I would be open to a friendly if it addresses us waiting for a possible contact. Because you're right, you can call until the day is done, and that's a lot of time and resources, and you don't need to bring something back to the board that we've already said if we agree to do it. So I would be open to, Alex trying to reach the homeowner or the property owner. And I say 2 weeks, if that's reasonable, but I'm open to a number. But there definitely needs to be a definitive cutoff time.
For reference, I've been trying to get a hold of them for about 2 weeks. So can we try I would request a month, I guess, if that would be helpful to me. And then additionally, if they're not interested in those parcels, would you
Yeah,
want?
I was even
back?
thinking more like 2 months,
2 months? Sure.
but it,
What?
I was thinking more like 2 months, and I think it's important because really the village doesn't want to have to worry about taking care of this property because they're in the middle of nothing. And it's not like we're going to sell this to to the other owners. We'll just give it to them. I think we would probably come to that agreement.
I think that's an open point for discussion too.
I think you wanted to say something then Brad, if you're done, Jan.
Yeah, I'm done.
I just wanted to give the board a little context. This is an out-of-state corporate owner of that property. And we've had situations in the past where we've needed temporary easements to do road work and things like that. And they do take a long time to respond to requests like that. I think this is probably a small piece of a larger portfolio that they deal with on real estate matters. So it probably will not be a priority from their standpoint. So it could take a fair amount of time is all I'm saying.
Thank you, Ellen. Brad?
Yeah, since there's a motion on the floor, I'll amend the motion to postpone until July 7th meeting to try to contact the owners.
I'll second that.
7th.
Sorry, I didn't keep track of who made the motion. Was that Brad and Jan?
Brad made the motion and Cedra seconded.
So Toshida, do you accept that change in the motion?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a motion to postpone. It's a separate motion, so that can be handled by the other two.
I thought he amended.
I was amending the original motion.
Then you would need
Friendly amendment.
consent for that.
I accept your friendly.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0, and we'll wait to hear more in July. Thank you. Item 9.5, Resolution 2026-041, a resolution approving a First Amendment to Development Agreement with CAH Company or CO Forest LLC. Bill Chang is listed as the staff presenter.
Yeah, so what I would like to do here is give a general presentation since this project involves 9.5, 9.6, 9.7, 10.1, and 12.1.
You want me to read them all again?
No, I'm going to give a general presentation about the project itself, and then as we dive down into each of those items separately, there's more detail about each of those items, which I can present even,
Okay.
give a further presentation.
Thank you.
I do want to also acknowledge that Claudio is here from Cascade Development, and I believe Luke is online also. And they're available to answer any questions if you may have any questions.
Bill, just 1 second. Luke, are you the iPhone? If you are, can you raise your hand, do the hand raise so we can unmute you? Okay, thank you. We will give you co-host. We're good.
So first of all, I want to locate us here. So you see on the map here again, we're in the corridor of Highway 51 and Highway 19 going east-west here. The green outline here shows tax increment district number 7 as amended last year. The yellow area is the residential area proposed for this development, and the red area is the area proposed for the sports complex and the hotel. Next here are renderings provided by Cascade Development. The first set of renderings here are of the residential proposals, 3 separate apartment buildings, 3 floors each, and then a series of townhome style units that would kind of border the apartment buildings along Peterson Crossing here. The objective, as we understand from the developer, is that the townhomes will provide a good and aesthetically pleasing frontage to the residential development. The uniqueness of the elevation on this parcel is that the 3-story buildings will be set lower in elevation, so the roof lines of both the townhome and the apartments here will work together. I believe they're half of the story above each other here. So again, just other renderings here. This is from a street view. I do want to state that in talking or planning this with the developer, we took a look at a lot of the aesthetics from not only DeForest Yards, phase 1, which is south of this development, but there is also, we took a look at the materials utilized for Hooper Corporation and their headquarters. And so we're starting to develop a aesthetic theme for this area as we go along here. So again, this project, this facility here is on the south side of 19. You see Williamsburg Way coming in on the right hand of the screen here. This is Savannah Drive coming across here, and the ice arena is just to the left here of the screen. So the facility, the sports facility, is proposed in 2 phases. The first phase would be the indoor field and a common space. And then the second phase we'll see in a later picture here would include the courts, indoor courts. This building that you see in the background here, that is the proposed 89-room Marriott Hotel. The Marriott Hotel actually will be constructed first as part of this project. Currently, the developer is looking at a parking study and a traffic study to complement their eventual submittal of site plan for this facility. Just to the south here, you see this parking lot. If you remember, a couple of years ago, the village acquired this property here, about 2 acres, in anticipation that more parking would be needed in this area. We currently have a development agreement with the developer to construct this parking lot, and so it will be a future municipal parking lot, and we've had discussions internally about potentially revenue generating here so that we can continue to maintain that moving into the future. So this here is the second phase. You can see the facility, and again, the aesthetics here match Legacy 20 at DeForest Yards, which is the ice arena. Same architecture style, aesthetic style as Youngblood, and then obviously the Aranda's second restaurant there. So I'm gonna pause there in regards to the general description of the project itself. Again, Cascade is online and in here if there's any questions in particular about land use and or the project overall. As we dive into each of the agenda items, I'll try to break it down in more into detail as to how those individual items apply to the overall plan.
Thank you, Bill. So general questions. Brad, I saw your hand first.
I just want to confirm that the hotel is 3 stories. Is that correct?
It's actually 4 stories.
Thank you, Luke. And could you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Yep, Luke Stoppaker with Cascade Development, Village of DeForest. Yeah, so the hotel is a Marriott Town Place Suites, 89 room. We're using their prototype drawings. And I think by the time we had the submittal, we probably at this point, we know the exterior and could give you guys, probably should have given you a better look at it, but we can do that next time. But it's a 4-story building with a good look. And Mark Roffers has had a look at the site plan and his comments on the meeting all the different municipality codes.
Is the current code 3 stories or is it 4?
I don't think there's a height. Yeah, I don't think there's a height issue there. I think just more general kind of all the different nuances inside of amount of EFIS and windows and all of that.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, just with the residential parking, I saw there's average of 1.5 for 1 bedroom apartment. Have we seen in other developments around the village that we've had parking concerns? A lot of families have 2 vehicles. Have we seen that in other places?
So I think the modification to the parking requirements in this case was related to surface parking versus under building parking.
Yeah, that's correct, Alex. So sorry to cut you off, but the reason for the modification is related to the outdoor garage part of it and the covered. We actually have, this is the most amount of parking I've had at a development. So the 1.5 is a kind of up over in the top. My current project over at the American Center is, I think, about 1.3 to 1. And DeForest Yards phase 1 is just under where we're at here. So from our 2,000 units of development, if we stay over the 1.3, 1.35, we've never had any issues with the parking. And it's a ratio between studios and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms as far as the cars. So we feel obviously very good about the parking position here, and it's in a better place than other developments we've done.
Their parking configuration is just different between the surface, the garage, and then under building than what we're typically seeing, but they're adequately parked overall for the site.
Okay. Anything else, Brad? Any other discussions, generally? Seeing none, I guess I would move on to item 9.4.1, the presentation on that actual item. So you okay with that, Bill?
I'll just add one additional thing on the hotel. So that is up on Engage DeForest, and they have a site plan submittal that is under that too, if you wanted to check that out.
Thank you, Alex.
And 9.5.1.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Can I say?
Yep, go ahead, Jen.
I've just been thinking about the lot that the village owns across the street from the sports complex. We said that we're going to try to make that revenue generating, correct? Okay, I'm thinking that Luke's not going to charge for parking at the facility itself. Am I wrong on that?
No, that's correct. Is our goal was not to have parking, obviously, just to kind of be different than Madison and have an easier access for the overall district. What we had talked about, it was kind of a little bit of a moving discussion because we don't really have an answer. When I say we, myself and village staff, is coming up with ways of how could we figure out how to use it? Maybe it's a VIP situation for certain events. And I think the goal was with you have the funding to create the parking, but what happens 10, 15, 20 years later from a maintenance standpoint? So I think what we didn't have an answer, but we said, let's continue to discuss this so we can figure out some way that we can create some sort of reserve fund to make sure that we don't have an issue 15 years down the road on a maintenance side of things.
Okay. I guess it's fuzzy to you guys. It seems fuzzy to me too. So I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah, I think it was like, it's certainly, I don't think it's normal that you need, I mean, you wouldn't normally charge in your other spaces. I think it was just kind of an add-on, like, oh, if we could get something to make it even better, how do we go about doing it? And I think when I was approached by village staff, I was like, hey, I'm open to listening. Obviously, we're managing all the assets in the development, so we're on board with that. So we were just kind of actively listening, talked about how we could work together to come up with something.
Okay, you're right. I guess when I'm thinking about if we're going to be charging for parking in the village lot, how do you sell that to the public? I mean,
yeah, and that
you're
was
not going to have happy people.
Yeah, for the record, I was the first one to say that. I was like, hey, what do you want me to do? Like, the better parking stalls are free. And so that's where we kind of thought of maybe there's certain special events. There's going to be a number of special events that we'll have as part of the entertainment district, whether it's in the sports facility, the field, or if it's in the hockey rink or the outdoor venue. So I think that's where we kind of said, hey, we don't have the answer, but we're all on the same team. Let's, as we have an opportunity to kind of continue this discussion as these things come to life, let's maybe find some opportunities to create some, something that we could put into. Obviously, as Cascade, as the developer, we wanted to get repaired too, and ultimately we would be involved. So instead of us get involved later when it's a problem, maybe we're proactive about it. I think that was kind of how we framed the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Luke. I guess we'll just look forward to hearing more once you guys hammer this out a little bit further.
Thank you, Jan. I think Bill wanted to add to that.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think Luke hit it right on the head. I mean, right now we're anticipating regular everyday use, which we don't believe that you're going to fill that municipal parking lot. But when it's the high demands, special events, I mean, that's the opportunity for the village to be able to capitalize on some of that. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be a $25 fee. Even $5 per vehicle. It's a 200 vehicle lot over a certain amount of time. Say, asphalt's usually good for 10, 15 years. That means something for the eventual replacement. So and we're obviously just thinking about it. There's a lot of factors that will play into this. The question is, if you start charging for parking, do those no participants find parking elsewhere? So there's questions about what is the right price, and so more questions, that's going to require more answers to come here.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions, Tashidra?
I think it's great to think about this and have these discussions on the front end. Just going to a enormous amount of sporting events, just to really address your question. Like, there's a plethora of things that you could do with this in terms of buy the building for the athletes, and then spectators are out, and people are usually more agreeable to that and paying. So I think, it would be prudent to just really try to have some ideas and some perspectives on the front end so that we're not trying to figure it out after the fact, because Jane, you're right, people are not going to want to pay, and then are they going to start parking in residential areas and causing issues there? Then it's the oversight of how do we manage, how do we know what car belongs to what? Is there going to be, so there's a lot of moving factors with this that I hope you keep in mind.
Thank you. Any continued discussion? I guess one idea I throw out there is if we say do have people pay, say even if it's $5 or $10, maybe we offer a shuttle service so it brings them right to the front door or something that might be a benefit. So
Yeah, that was one kind of thing that we, again, outside the box thinking. I've got a GEM vehicle. It's one of those electric, kind of golf cart looking things, but it's an upgraded version. That's a 6 seat. I've got it for the apartments because it's a large site, the first phase. And when we brought the USHL team in, we were going to start kind of toying around with, is there a way that we could create like a VIP type shuttle service, pick you up in your car. It's cold out in January, February. So those are all things that we just kind of like, hey, let's wrap our hands around this. And I think it's a little bit of like, I credit the village for bringing it up. When they brought it to me, I was like, that's not my world. That's not anything I've ever thought of. But okay, let's see if we can figure it out together. So I agree. I like that we're having the conversation now instead of down the road.
Thank you, Luke. So again, the item, what I misspoke, the 9.5.1, the staff presentation on the actual resolution. Is there anything else you want to add, Bill?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit in detail about what this resolution and this amendment to the development agreement with CAH here, which is Hooper. So we're talking about these lots highlighted in yellow here, currently owned by Hooper Corporation, or that CAH company, LLC. They do have a purchase agreement with Cascade to sell the properties. Currently, as it is now, there is a development agreement between the Village of DeForest and CAH for all the areas, all of the parcels that is owned by CAH or had been owned by CAH, to provide incentive payments from these parcels at a rate of 75% of the increment created. So that the opportunity to utilize available tax increment from these parcels is locked up by the company. As part of the deal here, it's my understanding that Cascade and CAH has negotiated the release of that hold to allow for the increment from these parcels will be created by Cascade to be utilized as tax incentive for the Cascade project. So that's what this amendment does. It realigns the opportunity to shift the available tax increment to be created from these parcels released by CAH, and then later on in the development agreement with Cascade to be assigned to Cascade.
Okay, thank you. Any discussions or a motion? Currently on the screen is resolution 2026-041.
Motion to approve resolution 2026-041.
Thank you, Brad. Motion by Brad. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Colleen. Any continued discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 9.6, ordinance 2026-004, an ordinance to rezone approximately 11.59 acres currently addressed at 6343 through 6367 Peterson Crossing to the RMB Residential Mixed Business District, Village of DeForest. Is that Bill or Alex? Alex.
So Bill gave a great overview of the project in general. Mark's memo kind of lays out the specifics of the rezoning request. This would be for the multifamily portion of the development that we kind of just went over, highlighted in yellow on your screen there. That's roughly 11 acres. At the March 24th Planning and Zoning meeting, the development came through for a conditional use permit, as well as the rezoning request that's before you. A public hearing was also held for the CUP, and the commission approved that request and recommended approval of the rezoning to you all. The conditional use permit, as we kind of just touched on in the parking discussion, enables two things within the RMB. So it would allow for a modification of the in-building or the under-building parking requirements. You also note in Mark's memo that there's a specification for attached garages. This was the distinction. The garages in this case are detached. So that was part of the modification there. Generally speaking, the RMB district fits the intent of the 19/Highway 51 overall area plan from the 2023 comprehensive plan, which envisioned this sort of as a dynamic mixed use district, so mixed residential and businesses. I believe that's the gist of it. If there's any questions from Mark's memo or related to the rezoning itself, happy to answer those. Otherwise, the developer's here as well.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions, or there is the resolution in front of us?
Motion to approve. Is that supposed to be ordinance or resolution?
It's an ordinance.
Ordinance 2026-004.
So the motion by Brad, and I think I heard Colleen.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Resolution 9.7, Resolution 2026-042, a resolution authorizing the village administrator and clerk to execute a facility use agreement with Cascade Development LLC. Staff presentation, I believe, is Bill again.
All right, so we're starting to transition over here from the residential construction over to the facility use of the sports complex. As you know, the village has specific impact fees, particularly park land dedication fees and park facility fees that are associated or charged for every new residential unit constructed in DeForest. So as such, we calculated the fees associated with Cascade's residential development. And similar to a facility use agreement that we currently have with Cascade for the ice arena, are proposing a facility use agreement for particularly the indoor courts of the sports facility. Also expandable to the indoor fields if ever we should get or need the ability to access those fields. Essentially, the facility use agreement sets up a priority for the village to occupy those courts at a similar rate as what was in the previous agreement. The village then allocated the amounts to be received from those park impact fees divided by the projected cost to lease a facility of this nature. And, you know, this shakes out to about a 12 to 15 year lease or facility use of what's going to be developed here. The facility use agreement does set a minimum that we will utilize 200 up to minimum 200 hours of the facility each year, but it doesn't set a maximum. Essentially, when we run out of that credit amount would be when that facility use agreement would terminate. Happy to answer any questions you have on the facility use agreement. Reese is here to talk about the village's recreation program needs, particularly as they relate to indoor courts, primarily basketball and volleyball. We'll take questions at this time.
Thank you, Bill. Again, like most of these items, there was no public appearances, so discussion and possible action. Any questions for Bill and Reese? Go ahead, Brad.
Reese, I wonder if you could just talk about, I think you said the school district is now charging for us to utilize the facilities. What is their rate that they charge hourly?
So I just had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago, and they are going to be looking to implement a fee. We have not finalized what that fee is going to be at this point. We're looking to see if we can get into a facility use agreement with the school district as well and see if maybe we can set a set amount per year that we would pay. But all of those are still points of discussion at this point. I think if I'm trying to remember right, there were different rates based on which gym or space you were using based off of the tiered level. And we would be a tier 2, which would include also like the DeForest area youth basketball, and any of those groups would also be considered in that same priority level as us. So it certainly is, as Bill mentioned, like this is an issue that we see is a growing issue for us. We're already struggling with the amount of space that we have for programming. We're turning away a lot of kids just because we ultimately just don't have room. We're maximizing teams as much as we can and space as much as we can. But this is going to be a long-term issue that we really need to try to find a solution. So whether it's us looking to make, agreements like this, or us looking to start planning for a community center that we have space for ourselves, I think that is something that really needs to be considered in our long-term planning.
Just quickly, I'll add, so the use of the revenue resource is not equal, in that if we are to lease from the school district, we cannot utilize park impact fees or parkland dedication fees in lieu of. In this situation, what we're doing is because of the development, so we're utilizing that as credit against the time reserved in this facility. In a lease agreement with the school district, likely the cost of that would need to be paid by either tax dollars or program generated revenue.
Second, Brad, anything else? Deidre?
It's a lot of notes tonight. I love it. First of all, I really want to commend you guys for thinking outside the box as to how we can get more space so that our community and our community's children can have the space that they need. It is hard getting space in the school district because they have their own programming that they have going on, and to be able to have first priority for the village, that goes a long way. And so I really appreciate you thinking outside the box in that way of how we can utilize the fees that we would normally get to offset leasing space, because it's only going to get more pricey as more and more space becomes harder to get access to. So I like that. And so Bill, the second question, you clarified it. The impact fees are in lieu of to help offset the leasing costs. Did I understand that right? Or something like that?
So what we're doing here is the total amount that Cascade would owe the village for parkland dedication and park impact. We're using that amount as credit towards our use of their private facilities. And so the clock starts ticking on that once we start utilizing or spending those credit dollars.
And then once that runs out, what happens then, right? Because I think you said 12 to 15 years, but if our programming increases as we hope it does, and we're utilizing the space more every single year, what happens? Do we get more credit, or do we actually just start paying out of pocket at that point? Because we don't want to take away what we've been giving people, right?
Yeah, so a couple things to think about here. Obviously, we'd want to enter into negotiation many years before the end of that contract. So annually, how the facility agreement is set up is that there's a tracking of that. There's an annual meeting between our staff and their staff on priority and scheduling, et cetera. And so we'll have an accounting of what is remaining. And so it would be my hope, and if I'm still here in 12 years, that we're negotiating that, 2 years ahead of time. If not, the other options would be to look at other facilities or, at that point, does the programming demand a facility of its own by the village? And so, a community center facility is extremely expensive, including, potentially where that goes and the land that needs to be acquired. And there's a whole discussion that needs to happen before that decision gets decided. But that clearly is an option that needs to be explored at the time. And you would weigh all your options together. Now, what I will also say is that in 10 to 12 years time, we have a number of tax increment districts that are intended to end or will have run their statutory lifetime before then, which allows for a bit of financial flexibility, planning flexibility for the village to consider. Community center is not the only public facility that the village needs to consider in the next couple of years here. You know already about the fire station, about the pre-planning for the public services facility. There's been talks about what is the future of the library, and where do we go from here? And I'm sure between now and 12 years from now, there's going to be other facilities that are going to need be requested of the village.
Anything else?
Jim, Luke has his hand raised too.
Just a second, Luke. I think Brad, you had a question yet.
Yeah, sorry, one more thing. If approved, what is the timeline for these fields? I saw it was phase 2. Is that still within the January 2028?
Yeah, so there is a timeline or a deadline in the facility use agreement. I believe we have that the facility should be completed not later than December 31st, 2029. And so that provides a little bit of flexibility to Cascade, but it doesn't leave that out there forever. And as as the agreement states, if this agreement falls apart or it doesn't get built or the terms aren't met, then the village can claim the remaining amount of what that total fee amount is, which may be a benefit to the village, because once fees are collected, we only have 7 years to spend it. If we don't spend it within that time frame, then we have to return that to the developer.
Thank you, Brad. Luke, did you want to add to one of the responses?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to give a little color or background to both of them. I'll try to remember all of them because it was a little bit ago, but I heard it best when we talked about it being outside the box. It's, we look at these issues individually, like a facilities use agreement as an individual piece. We look at the sports as an individual piece, the apartments as individual. And how we arrived here was probably 3 years ago, I guess, is the timing of when we were trying to figure out the rink piece. And when me and Bill and Alex sat down and said, how do we do this? And I think holistically, these structures never get built. Someone's been trying to do this soccer lacrosse stadium probably for 20 years and it just can't get done. The math doesn't work. And so we sat there and said, all right, like, what are the different levers we could pull and how can we win on the margins? And what are all the different pieces we can pull together to kind of make this work? And with this, the facilities piece was one that was a part of, hey, if we don't build these apartments, we'd never have to pay these fee. If we build them, we'd pay them. But is there a way we could kind of shift that over to some park and rec fees? So that's kind of just, I think it's important to understand how we arrived at it. Same deal. If we don't do the apartments and the fees aren't generated, and so it's kind of but. So we looked at them kind of all tied together, and then where can we kind of support create different funding sources, because that's the goal of this. That's why we're talking about the facility use agreement going back 3 years. And when phase 2 came up and said, all right, hey, can we look at that again? And we used basically the exact same template language as we did with the rink. And the difference here was, and this will answer the second question that Brad had, is the timing of it. And when I talked to Bill, I said, hey, there's going to be this indoor soccer lacrosse field that no one else has, and well, this would be great. Bill's feedback was, hey, we don't feel like we need field space, we need court space. And so I obviously listened to him. It wasn't, the field was part of phase one. The hard courts that we're calling, I guess, the field house were part of phase two. But this agreement covers any use of the facility, whether it's fields or courts or different pieces. But the feedback from Reese and Bill was, hey, we really need the court piece, and here's where we can solve a need. So I said, okay, great. We'll make sure that we incorporate this hard court piece in, and that's why we had the timing of it. Say that the field goes right away. We're hoping that the second phase, much like the second iteration of the arena, went way quicker than I thought it would. There's a lot of things that are acting in our favor to get that second phase going even earlier. But the idea was, you guys have a court need. Let's make sure we commit to helping solve that. So that's where kind of some of the dates and why it's in the phase two piece. But the agreement would cover full access of the whole facility, whether it's a flag football league or something like that that wanted to use the turf for soccer. But also, I think, like I said, the court was a current need that we saw. I lost my track. There was one other thing that I wanted to add as part of that. But I'll think of it later, I'm sure.
Thank you, Luke. I think that does clarify quite a bit. And Brad, did you have anything else? Thank you. So we are at the resolution 2026-042. We're looking for a continued discussion or a motion.
Do you want to make a motion to approve resolution 2026-042?
Thank you, Brad. Is there
Second.
Seconded by Jan. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item number 10.1 is discussion and possible action regarding resolution 2026-043, resolution authorizing the village administrator and clerk to execute a development agreement with Cascade Development LLC. The village board may convene into closed session as authorized by Wisconsin statute 1985, parent 1, parent E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public property, investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public businesses whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The village board may reconvene in open session and further discuss or take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session. And the staff presentation, I believe, is being started by Bill Chang.
I think I just accidentally closed out on the agenda. So if you could pull that up while I present, that'd be great. So this is the development agreement that kind of brings everything together here ultimately. So as part of the proposal for the sports complex, we, in talking with Cascade, knew that the sports complex was going to be the hardest piece to finance. As we understand it, the expenditure, the construction expenditure into the sports facility itself is estimated about $40 million. And to pull it together, Cascade is requesting for $11 million in tax increment financing. And so when we thought about, how do we get there? That really brought in these other projects, the aspects of the project, both on the residential side and as the village historically has desired additional commercial development. And so in talking with Cascade and talking about what type of commercial we wanted to bring into the sector or this section that would benefit not only just this project, but is phase one, the hockey rink, et cetera. Luke settled on the Marriott Hotel, which would not only bring in property tax revenue, but also bring in room tax revenue. So as we walk through the development agreement, we have provisions in there that are protective of the village. First and foremost, the totality of the project, which would include the sports facility, the hotel, and the residential developments, are required to meet certain guarantees. Of that, the first guarantee are assessed value guarantees, construction guarantees, tax increment guarantees in order to receive any incentives from the village. So I'll take this time to walk through some of that detail. Feel free to stop me if you have questions. So the most immediate deadline or requirement or obligation of the developer is that construction on the facilities, primarily grading and installation of utilities, needs to start almost immediately. So before, no later than May 31st, 2026. Within the first year of construction, they need to get to $24.7 million of assessed value by January 1st, 2027. So that's 2026 construction. They need to get to 68 million, total of $68 million in that second guarantee by January 1st, 2028 assessment date. So that's 2026 and 2027 construction. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, they need to get to at least $76 million at the beginning of 2029. That is something that the developer is comfortable with. At those numbers, at the current mill rate, what that does is it brings in $430,000 in tax increment, newly created tax increment in 2028, about $1.2 million of tax revenue or increment revenue in 2029, and then 1.3 million in 2030 and thereafter. And those are all guarantees that the developer is comfortable with. If upon construction start, the village would then issue what's called a municipal revenue obligation bond, or in the agreement is referenced as the facility bond. What that is it's a promise from the village to make payment to the developer for the incentive payments so long as they meet the requirements or their obligations within the development agreement. What that does is it provides up to 11 million over the lifetime of the tax increment district, utilizing 90% of the tax increment created from the properties for which the construction or the development has taken place. So it's not taking money or it's not taking revenues from any other development in the tax increment district or from anywhere else in the village. It's all new tax revenue created from the project that he is going to build. And again, it's whatever comes first. It's either 11 million. If the assessed value goes up, or in the meantime, the mill rate goes up and we bring in more revenues, if we get to 11 million ahead of that, the remainder of the tax increment district life, the village has the opportunity to pay off early and close the tax increment early. If something should happen, knock on wood, and we don't get to the million and the time of the tax increment district statutorily closes, then that's a risk that they take on. We also have in here a value covenant, which states that the developer is going to record that the values of the properties will remain as stated here, so that we don't run into a situation where the assessment values are challenged, therefore potentially reducing the increment and putting us in a tough spot because our payment may be upside down. So that's the kind of the majority of the main items here, some legalese. At the back of the agreement is a revenue bond or that facility bond language. I want to reiterate that this is a pay-as-you-go bond. So, if we don't receive the tax increment, then we don't pay the incentive. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So no public appearances, so discussion and possible action. Anybody want to start the discussion? I guess I have one thing that seeing. One concern I have is the value that's promised for the January 1st, 2027. Just seeing where we are in the year and knowing what it will take to say get a through site plan, probably permitting through DNR, and then also the procurement of whatever they need to construct to get it up by then. I wonder how much of a concern that is, and is that value attempted to be added through like the hotel, or is that the sports complex? Do you know?
Well, the value is all the properties. So the sports complex, the hotel, and the residential construction. Luke can talk more about his construction phasing, but the timing of those values is important because of the life expectancy of the tax increment district. Obviously, we want more value upfront. That provides more increment upfront. The later you push it off, the more at risk you become and not paying the whole bond.
Yep, I can understand why the value is important. It just seems very aggressive. So I don't know, Luke, if you want to comment on that.
Yep. Yeah. I never know when I'm allowed to speak with the different rules. So yeah, I guess I thought of this as we were going. I know Cullen has those signs out there, the tough job experts. Me and Bill keep coming up with these things that seem a little bit impossible, but and we kind of thread the needle, pull it off. It's very similar to the hockey rink, where we were under strict time constraints, both in starting before the TIF district or the TID allowed us to, and then also getting the increment values up in time to meet all these numbers. And we've spent a fair amount of time going over the schedule. I've gotten comfortable with it. We've gone back and forth. It's adding the hotel was a game changer. I think from a development standpoint, as far as the value to the municipality, but also adding to the district. From a standpoint of the timing, the construction, we've got a lot going, and it's going to go fast. We'll be in the ground late May. I already have a commitment letter from the bank I'm going to use on the first phase of the apartments, and we're working on the appraisal now, and I'm in early stages on the hotel financing. So it's all coming together. I feel comfortable that we'll be able to perform. If you again go back to, it's very similar, mimicking phase one, is we've exceeded the schedule that we had in the phase one of DeForest Yards, and we're ahead of schedule there, and we'll meet our requirement way earlier than had anticipated. The goal here is to do that. I think what we looked at my risk, if you will, it's more of a cascade risk than is a village risk, because with the pay as you go program, I only get back a percentage of what I pay in. So if I don't perform, then I'm the one at risk, of course, which not good for anybody. But so one of the things to kind of alleviate that is the economic conditions with second phases. It would be a topic if I was looking at this on the other side of it. And so what we put as much as we could into the phase one that we're starting now, which is the hotel and the 228 units that are in front of you guys on all the other approvals, as well as the sports facility. And probably 85-90% of the value is created in that first phase. And we obviously are committing to doing that. And we'll have a shovel in the ground inside of 6 weeks. And we've taken a conservative approach. I would say Bill could speak to it too. I think we got to perform to probably about 75% of what we are throwing in this. If we do 75% of it, we'll meet those values, and that's without taking into account inflation. So that's kind of our second backup is about 5 to 6% a year. Property values have gone up, or assessments have gone up. So we had a really good sample with the park and what they were paying in property taxes. We applied that to DeForest Yards. We now have the park and DeForest Yards, and then now have applied that to this second phase. So yeah, it's aggressive, but that's why I'll be in your guys' meetings here for the next, I think, 6 to 8 weeks with all these approvals. So we're set to meet all of those phase one timelines. Long answer for you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Luke. And I think Brad, you had a question.
Bill, when is the TID 7 set to expire?
So the expenditure period ends, I believe, early part of June. And then it runs, I believe, for another 11 years and thereafter. 2037 is the closing date.
And then how much TIF was provided in the phase one project for the ice rink?
Off the top of my head here, I think it was close to, I want to say 11 million too. So 8.5 million for the rink itself, and then there was some public infrastructure incentives as part of Monticello extension, and then the Highway 51 Williamsburg Way Pepsi Way interchange.
Yeah, and just to clarify, 9 million for the sports piece. The intersection piece that we tacked on at the end is what drove that up. But specifically for our development, it was 1.5 million for Monticello Way and 8 million for the sports facility, which turns into much less with the financing piece of it. And what I have to do is go get financing with that developer's agreement with my guarantee, and then finance it on the front end for the future payments that we would get that are coming. So actually the RIC, I think about 2 million has been paid out, and Bill has all the numbers, but most of that's now coming in future years as my tax payments will be coming in on the first phase. So similar setup, actually more favorable setup for the village. We had a little back and forth, me and Bill, but there's reasons this district is tougher for me to work in than the first one. So, but we worked through those challenges with Bill and Al Reuter.
Thank you, Luke. Anything else? Anybody else further?
And I want to reiterate that they're in two different tax increment districts. Very different situations in regards to the tax increment being generated past and current and versus future, which is here.
Thank you. Any further discussion, or we do have the resolution in front of us?
Sorry, let me get to the correct resolution here. There you go, resolution 2026-043.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve 2026-043.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Colleen, seconded by Jan. Any further discussion?
I just want to make a comment. This is something that I think we've all kind of decided that we've wanted and would be good for the community. I think that the developer working with Luke has been a good choice in the past, and I think it will be going forward. And we also have the willing parties of Hooper and Don Tierney that have come forward and have helped make this happen. So I think that we should probably go ahead with this and now give the government okay.
Thank you, Jan. Anybody else wishing to comment or discuss? Yes, I will say something as along the same lines as Jan. I appreciate working with Luke, and it's a bit of a trust because this is a big number, but also knowing I'm comforted with the hotel coming in and knowing that there's room taxes coming, and something that I've been aware of, I think it was through planning and zoning, is that there is a couple other developments that will be coming. I don't know, Alex, if you want to allude to that. I know there's at least one site plan that I think you've seen, but
Yeah, so on the lots just south of the multifamily that Luke's proposing here, Bill, if you want to pull up, yep, the first lot at the corner, there's I guess like a multi-tenant commercial development that's being proposed there. I say that, but it's hasn't really gone through any process yet. They're very early in this in their planning stages, but I know that the activity that's been going on in this district has been a driving force for them looking here. And hopefully that would lead to further development. I know they also have some plans on some of the lots to the east of there as well.
and I guess that's goes into some of my decision as I feel like this can really pull in some more businesses there and probably adds quite a bit to selling the residential lots that are now available at Homestead. So thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'm going to ask everybody in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. And I believe that takes care of actually 12.1 also. So item number 13 is a check register. I would ask if you have any questions of forward them on to Bill or Carol, or is it Brandon? That's the CC Brandon. Yeah. Item 14.1 and 14.11, Public Safety Commission minutes. I guess maybe I'll just run through it and take them all. There is the minutes in the agenda. Is there anybody wishing to comment or questions? Moving on to President's report. We currently don't have one. So Bill, is there anything?
We are working on committee, commissions, and board appointments. I think I've reached out to most of you about that. Brad, we needed to talk about your appointments. But we'll plan to have that come to the board at the next meeting. As some of those appointments need to be made before May 1st here.
Thank you, Bill. Item number 16, any other business that lawfully comes before the board? Seeing none. Adjournment, did you have something to say, Tashidra?
Sure. Just making sure no one in the audience had anything. Good.
Okay, no. Number 17, anything you want to say?
Oh, you betcha. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 7:45. I picked you up the ball.